Phantom vibrations, mindless scrolling before bed, reaching for your phone the moment you wake up, before you've even opened both eyes. These are smartphone addiction symptoms that most of us dismiss as harmless habits. But they're not habits, they're warning signs. And they prove that you, along with billions of other people, are trapped in something called the attention economy, a system deliberately engineered to keep you hooked. This breaks down the smartphone addiction symptoms you shouldn't ignore, why your brain responds to your phone the same way it responds to addictive drugs, and what you can do about it before the damage becomes harder to reverse. Let's start with a number, 6.8 billion. That's how many smartphone users exist on this planet as of 2024. Within that population, approximately 3.8 billion people, over 48% of all users, are considered addicted to their phones. The average American checks their phone 144 times per day. 50% of Americans spend 5 to 6 hours on their smartphone every single day. And 87% of users interact with their phones within the first hour of waking up or shortly before sleeping. These aren't just statistics, they describe a global behavioral pattern that has no historical precedent. And the reason it's happening isn't because we lack discipline. It's because the most sophisticated companies on Earth are spending billions of dollars to make sure we can't look away. But before we get to the engineering behind this, let's talk about the symptoms themselves, because most people experiencing smartphone addiction don't even realize it. The first symptom is one of the strangest, and it's called phantom vibration syndrome. You feel your phone buzz in your pocket. You pull it out. Nothing. No notification. No call, no message. Your brain fabricated the sensation entirely. This isn't some rare glitch. Studies show that the baseline prevalence of phantom vibrations among heavy phone users hits 78%. Among medical interns, that number climbed to nearly 96% after just 3 months of intensive phone use. Researchers classify this as a tactile hallucination. Your brain has become so attuned to expecting input from your device that it literally creates sensory experiences that aren't real. The term ringxiety, a blend of ring and anxiety, was coined back in 2007 when the phenomenon was first studied. By 2012, phantom vibration syndrome earned the title of Australian Macquarie Dictionary's Word of the Year. Preliminary research links it directly to over-involvement with one's phone. Vibrations typically start occurring after carrying a device for between 1 month and 1 year. If you're feeling buzzes that aren't there, your nervous system is telling you something. It's rewired itself around your phone. The second symptom is nomophobia, the fear of being without your mobile phone. The term originated from a 2008 study commissioned by the UK Post Office. Researchers surveyed over 2,000 mobile phone users and found that 53% experienced genuine anxiety when they lost their phone, ran out of battery, or had no service. That was 2008. Since then, the numbers have exploded. Recent research shows that 66% of people worldwide now fear being without their phones. Among university students, nomophobia prevalence rates approach 100%. A staggering 99.2% of smartphone users show at least some symptoms. People experiencing nomophobia report anxiety, agitation, and disorientation when separated from their devices. Between 25 and 73% of diagnosed cases are classified as moderate, and up to 87% of cases in some studies are considered severe. This isn't a personality quirk. This is a diagnosable anxiety response, centered entirely around a 6-inch rectangle of glass and metal. Symptom number 3 is withdrawal, real, measurable withdrawal. When people try to cut back on smartphone use, they often experience irritability, emotional distress, restlessness, and difficulty concentrating. These are the same categories of withdrawal symptoms associated with substance dependency. Research confirms that dependency on smartphones leads to withdrawal responses that intensify depressive symptoms when the device isn't in use. Your brain has adapted to a constant stream of input, and when that stream gets interrupted, it protests. The fourth symptom is compulsive checking. About 22% of young adults check their phones every few minutes, not because they're expecting something important, not because they need information. They check because they feel compelled to. The anxiety about missing notifications, the restlessness during phone-free activities, the irritability when you can't access your device, these are signs that your relationship with technology has shifted from tool to dependency. And here's what makes compulsive checking so insidious. You receive 427% more messages and notifications today than you did just a decade ago, according to research published by Virgin Mobile. You also send 278% more texts. The volume of incoming stimuli has grown exponentially, and your checking behavior has scaled to match it. The fifth symptom is sleep disruption. 71% of Americans report sleeping with or next to their smartphones. 67% of surveyed teenagers reported sleep loss due to late-night device use. And this isn't just about losing a few minutes of rest. Sleep deprivation has cascading effects. Chronic lack of sleep increases risks of obesity, cardiovascular disease, weakened immune function, and type 2 diabetes. Cognitively, it reduces attention span, impairs memory consolidation, and slows decision-making. In terms of mental health, disrupted sleep is strongly linked to elevated risks of depression, anxiety, suicidal ideation, and emotional dysregulation. An estimated 88 million additional insomnia cases have been attributed to nighttime phone usage patterns. When you scroll in bed, you're not just losing sleep, you're degrading every system in your body that depends on it. The sixth symptom is loss of control. You tell yourself you'll check your phone for 1 minute. 20 minutes later, you're still scrolling. You set a goal to put the phone down during dinner. You can't do it. You know you should stop, but you don't. This inability to regulate your own behavior around a device is one of the clearest indicators of addiction, and it's remarkably common. The seventh symptom is using your phone as an emotional escape. When you're stressed, bored, anxious, or lonely, where do you go? If the answer is your phone every single time, that's a warning sign. Individuals increasingly turn to their devices to avoid difficult emotions, but the relief is temporary. The compulsive need to check notifications and stay connected actually triggers more anxiety, not less. Social comparison on platforms creates feelings of inadequacy. The escape becomes the source of the problem. And the eighth symptom is the impact on your relationships. Smartphone addiction leads to diminished face-to-face interactions and strained relationships. When you're physically present with someone but mentally absent, scrolling through feeds, or responding to notifications, you're not connecting. You're performing the appearance of presence while being somewhere else entirely. Over time, this erodes trust, intimacy, and the quality of every meaningful relationship in your life. Now here's where the story gets darker, because these symptoms aren't accidental, they're engineered. Tristan Harris, a former Google design ethicist who became one of Silicon Valley's most outspoken critics, put it this way: "Every time I check my phone, I'm playing the slot machine to see what did I get. This is one way to hijack people's minds and create a habit." The Atlantic called Harris the closest thing Silicon Valley has to a conscience. In 2013, while still working at Google, he authored a 141-slide presentation titled "A Call to Minimize Distraction and Respect Users' Attention." It went viral internally. Tens of thousands of Google employees viewed it. Harris eventually left Google in 2015 to co-found what became the Center for Humane Technology. His central argument is simple and devastating. Tech companies use human psychology to design products that are deliberately addictive. At the heart of it is your brain's reward system, fueled by dopamine. This neurotransmitter creates the feel-good rush you experience when you receive a like, a comment, or a new notification. But your brain can't distinguish between meaningful accomplishments and digital ones. A notification ping lights up the same neural pathways as a genuinely significant achievement. Tech companies exploit this through what psychologists call variable reinforcement schedules. This is the same mechanism that makes slot machines addictive. You don't know when the reward is coming, so you keep pulling the lever. Or in this case, you keep refreshing the feed. Social media platforms trigger dopamine release through unpredictable rewards, likes, comments, and shares, creating anticipation that drives compulsive checking behavior. The design techniques go deeper. Pull-to-refresh mechanisms that literally mimic slot machine actions. Infinite scrolling that eliminates natural stopping points. Algorithmically curated feeds optimized for engagement rather than your well-being. Notification batching and strategic delivery timing. Social validation, features that quantify human approval into numbers. Every one of these features was designed, tested, and deployed to keep you on the platform longer. Chamath Palihapitiya, a former Facebook executive, said it plainly: "The short-term dopamine-driven feedback loops that we have created are destroying how society works." Ramsey Brown, co-founder of a company literally called Dopamine Labs, confirmed that the average Canadian teenager is on track to spend nearly a decade of their life staring at a smartphone, and that this isn't an accident. These outcomes are the result of deliberate design choices. This is the attention economy in action. The concept was first defined by Herbert Simon, a Nobel Prize-winning social scientist, who observed that in an information-rich world, information consumes the attention of its recipients. A wealth of information creates a poverty of attention. On platforms like Facebook and Instagram, you aren't the customer. Your attention is the product being sold to advertisers. Companies like Coca-Cola pay for access to your eyeballs. You are the commodity being traded. The neurological evidence makes this even more concerning. In 2020, researchers at Heidelberg University in Germany published a landmark study in the journal Addictive Behaviors. They put smartphone addiction under the MRI scanner, literally comparing brain scans of 22 individuals identified as having smartphone addiction against 26 healthy controls. The findings were stark. Smartphone-addicted individuals showed reduced gray matter volume in the left anterior insula, a region critical for empathy and emotional awareness. They showed shrinkage in the inferior temporal and parahippocampal cortex, areas responsible for memory and recognition. And they showed lower activity in the anterior cingulate cortex, the brain's center for cognitive control. A 2024 systematic review of fMRI studies confirmed that individuals with smartphone addiction show impaired decision-making, poor impulse control, and structural abnormalities in the prefrontal cortex. These are the same executive function deficits that characterize substance use disorders. Smartphone addiction and drug addiction share similar manifestations. Both involve strong cravings. Both lead to uncontrollable and repeated use. And both activate the brain's dopamine reward circuit. Studies measuring brain activity show that receiving likes and comments activates the nucleus accumbens, the exact same region that responds to addictive drugs. This is especially dangerous for young people. During the teenage years, the brain's reward circuits are highly active while the prefrontal cortex responsible for impulse control is still maturing. This imbalance makes adolescents far more prone to compulsive behavior. By age 14, 25% of adolescents already show addictive mobile phone usage patterns. 50% of teenagers consider themselves addicted, and teens spending 5 or more hours on devices daily show a 71% higher risk of exhibiting suicidal behaviors. Over 30% of people with smartphone addiction also experience symptoms of depression. The depression risk among heavy users is 2.8 times higher. And researchers have documented that smartphone addiction produces ADHD-like symptoms, degrading attention span in people who had no prior attention difficulties. But here's what you need to hear. The damage is reversible. Research has shown that 9 weeks of cognitive behavioral therapy moved disrupted brain chemistry back toward normal levels. The neural suppression caused by smartphone overuse isn't permanent. The system wants to return to baseline, it just needs the input to stop and the right conditions for recovery. Cognitive behavioral therapy has shown 60 to 75% improvement rates in clinical studies, typically over 8 to 16 weeks. CBT techniques modify the maladaptive thoughts and behaviors associated with smartphone dependency, focusing on anxiety reduction, emotion regulation, and self-control. In severe cases, pharmaceutical interventions ranging from antidepressants to benzodiazepines have been used successfully. But for most people, the first step is much simpler. It's digital well-being. Both Android and Apple now offer built-in tools that most people never use. Android's Digital Wellbeing Suite lets you see which apps consume the most time and set daily limits. Once you hit the limit, apps pause and notifications go silent. Focus mode temporarily disables distracting apps during work hours or study sessions. Bedtime mode dims the screen and silences notifications to help you wind down. Even a 48-hour digital detox has been shown to improve attention span and working memory by about 23%. Micro-break programs in workplaces have cut average daily screen time by 22 minutes. And 41% of Gen Z users are already actively trying to reduce their smartphone use. Globally, the response is growing. China has introduced regulations limiting teens aged 16 to 18 to a maximum of 2 hours of smartphone use daily, with those under 16 restricted to 1 hour. A WHO-linked analysis now flags smartphone addiction as a public mental health concern in over 50 countries. The conversation is shifting from individual willpower to systemic accountability. Apple CEO Tim Cook himself acknowledged, "It's long past time to stop pretending that this approach doesn't come with a cost of polarization, of lost trust, and yes, of violence. A social dilemma cannot be allowed to become a social catastrophe. So where does that leave you? Right now, wherever you're watching this video, your phone is probably within arm's reach. You probably checked it during this video. And you probably felt the urge to check it more than once. That urge isn't weakness. It's the result of the most sophisticated behavioral engineering project in human history. Billions of dollars and thousands of the world's smartest engineers have been deployed to capture and hold your attention. The smartphone addiction symptoms we've covered, phantom vibrations, nomophobia, withdrawal, compulsive checking, sleep disruption, loss of control, emotional escape, and relationship damage, aren't character flaws. They're predictable outcomes of a system designed to produce exactly these results. The philosopher Nassim Taleb once wrote, "The difference between technology and slavery is that slaves are aware they are not free." Awareness is the first step. Now you know the symptoms. Now you understand the engineered addiction behind them. The question is, what you do next? Because your brain is waiting for you to give it the chance to heal. And the slot machine in your pocket will keep spinning until you decide to walk away from the table.